And we're here to conduct a budget hearing for the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Office has numerous general fund accounts, being the General Division, that's 12501, 12502 Central Communications, IT, the Drug Task Force that was previously done, an Explorer program that they implemented last year, and numerous other accounts such as Marine Patrol, the revolving funds for Concord, Painesville Township, and Perry, a Homeland Security, which I work with Mr. Ian on that quite extensively on various different Stone Garden applications, or grants I should say. So that is just a summary of all the sheriff's funds. I probably forgot a few that we can talk about throughout the budget hearing, but I'll turn it over to Sheriff Leon Bruno now.
Good afternoon. Just to let you know who's here with me today, Chief Deputy Robert Izzo is charge of operations at the Lake County Sheriff's Office, and we brought our budget staff. So that's who's here today. Ian Rushdie handles all our billing. Sue Middendorf handles Central Communications, and Angela Abina handles our payroll. And so they all work together. So I asked them to be here because I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, but I don't have all the answers yet. Since 2012, Sheriff's Office has not had a budget meeting with the Lake County Commissioners. Over those years, we've worked very well with Director Boyd in terms of, and with Budget Director Matus in terms of our budget. And a lot of good communications gone by. And the Lake County Sheriff's Office, the Lake County Commissioners has treated the Lake County Sheriff's Office, I think, very well in responding to the needs of law enforcement in the Sheriff's Office, and we appreciate that. However, we requested our meeting today to convey some of our concerns on some of the budgetary issues that are upcoming concerning Sheriff's Office operations. I think this year, our basic budgetary needs have been addressed by the Budget Director in preparing that for 2023. But a few areas I want to make you aware of what's coming up for us that impacts our budget and the general fund, and then two main issues that I'd like to address, or we'd like to address, that are concerns for us. First one is Fire Station Alerting. Fire Station Alerting is a software program. We dispatch for 9 fire agencies in Lake County, and that system that was purchased by a grant by the fire chiefs through the Lake County Commissioners is no longer serviceable and needs to be replaced. Estimates that we're receiving, depending on the type of software provided, is between $400,000 and $500,000 to replace the Fire Station Alerting system. As you know, this past year we replaced the records management package or system for the Sheriff's Office and the jail management system. The third leg of those software systems is CAD, Computer-Aided Dispatch. So that we are currently finalizing the pricing from that from Hexagon, who is our current provider for the upgrade. We're estimating between $1.2 and $1.4 million for the software, but we're estimating the total transition would be $1.8 to $2 million when you add the replacing of equipment, upgrades on equipment, and other aspects such as training that will need to be done in terms of overtime for CAD training. Here's an interesting note is we're estimating about $40,000 we'll need for new screens. During COVID, everybody was cleaning the screens every day. And our IT says all those screens now are so deteriorated from the cleaning equipment used on those screens, they're becoming unserviceable. So we're going to have to replace that as part of that CAD upgrade. We have some senior staff that will be retiring this year, and we're estimating between $100,000 and $150,000 in terms of paying them out in terms of sick time and other benefits. Fortunately, the county has a program that covers those payouts, but we wanted to make you aware of those, and I'm sure the budget director is aware of some of those payouts. An issue for the jail is the medical program continues to increase in terms of cost. When I served as jail administrator back in about 2003, the county was paying about $600,000 total for the medical program. Today, that cost is about $2 million a year. $800,000 of that is in costs that we are incurring sending inmates out to medical appointments, hospital stays, surgeries that are being done. The type of inmate that we have today, as I expressed before, instead of being 2/3 misdemeanors, low-level offenders, and 1/3 felons, we're 2/3 felons and 1/3 misdemeanors. So when we release somebody or take somebody to a medical appointment or send them to the hospital, the chances of getting them released on some type of bond are not good because of their threat level to society. So we're ending up watching them. And depending on some of those stays, in 2018, we were averaging 295 outside medical runs with the inmates. In 2022, that number has reached 559. So on average, 1.8 inmates is leaving the jail each day and going out to outside medical appointments or hospital stays. We've had one inmate that has now had 3 longer stays at the various hospitals, and those have averaged 5 to 8 days. The types of medications that they're on now is increasing. So we're spending about $250,000 to $300,000 a year in medications, whether that's psych meds or just regular meds. Some of those meds for one person for just one type of medication has reached $8,000 that we're paying for that medication. Now, what is beneficial is on our hospital stays, we're only paying Medicare rates. We don't pay the full medical bill, which is now federally mandated. And so that has been great in terms of reducing our costs. Some people have asked, have you ever looked at privatizing your services? And we have. We're paying about $2 million now. The closest ones, and we did this in 2017, were between $2.7 million and $3.5 million to run the same medical program. So we looked at a lot of different aspects to try to reduce that. Our food costs are climbing just as they are at home. So our food costs last year up about $80,000 for the jail, and we're estimating probably closer to $120,000 more in 2023 with the rise in some of those food costs. Another thing to point out, and it's is NextGen 911 has been talked about now for 10 years, but it's becoming a reality, and we would expect within the next year and a half that NextGen will will be finalized by the state. What that means is we're going to have increased staffing. Currently, a dispatcher answers the calls that come in. With NextGen 911, it will require that you answer text messages, that you be able to receive a video. So if somebody wants to FaceTime you, there's a lot more staffing that's needed to maintain NextGen 911. Now we're hoping the state provides some of that money. We were in Washington last week, the chief and I, to talk to Senator Vance and to talk to Congressman Joyce, and we expressed the need for funding here in Northeast Ohio to address some of those needs. One area that we've seen increase, but we're going to need more, is in our training budget. We have about 250 employees, and we have a training budget of around $50,000 between Central Communications and the main office. As you know, one of the issues now being pressed on is training, and so that's going to require that we get people out to training or bring in trainers and spend overtime dollars in terms of sending people to that training here at home. And so we've tried to do a lot of the online training when possible, but I'll be quite honest, some of the online training is just not that good. And so you fill the hours, but I don't know if it protects the liability of the county or operations that well. And so we're looking at some of those areas. Anything else coming up, Chief, that you're aware of? Here, just hit that mic. You got hit that mic.
Nothing really that you haven't touched on, except for obviously the big ticket item that I think we all know we need to discuss too. But as far as the training goes, you know, we're scrutinized far more than we ever have been, and we have the training facility going in. We're real excited about that. We appreciate everything that you all have done as far as that goes, and it is our goal to lead the county with that facility.
When you say training facility, for those who may not be familiar with what you're referring, sir, if you could.
The new facility at our shooting range. We expect that'll be open this summer sometime. You know, some of the assets that are going to be in that building with shoot don't shoot simulator is going to be a separate building for the hot house, we call it, as well as our live fire ranges. It is our objective and our goal to be able to provide for the entire county. You know, and that obviously takes personnel. We would love to be able to have 2 full-timers out there to run the range. Right now we have 1 designated, and we'd love to add another one. And we have certain people in mind that are certified to provide training, and we feel like that's it will be an expense up front, but we'll save all county agencies money as we move forward with that, and being able to do that training here at home in the county instead of having to travel to other places or to provide other companies with the money to pay for the training.
The 2 areas that we'd like to talk about this morning that are very significant regarding the Sheriff's Office operations. The first one is staffing. We need to increase, and we've discussed this at commissioners' meetings and in other meetings with the budget director, especially in terms of corrections officers and deputy sheriffs. Currently, corrections officers are being paid more than $12,000 less than our neighboring county in Geauga County. Geauga County has about 100 inmates a day. We have, on average, 350 inmates a day, sometimes more, sometimes less. But it's a much more complicated job. But we're losing our trained staff to Cuyahoga County, to Geauga County, and other facilities where the corrections officers are paid $12,000 or more a year. What does that mean? we've been down often in the jail in the past year, as many as 20 of the 87 staff. That means you're training 20 people at the same time that people are working overtime to replace them. And at the same time, we're trying to find new people. It used to be we posted for a couple positions in the jail, we had 100 applications. Now we post for 20 openings and maybe get 5 applications. We just aren't getting the applicants needed to fill these positions. And we don't take just anybody, because we believe that we have to maintain standards. So do we turn away people? Absolutely, because we're not just filling positions, because that creates liability and issues in terms of that. But I'll give you an example. Last year in 2022, and the budget director or our payroll could correct me, but I believe the Lake County Sheriff's Office incurred about $900,000 to $950,000 in overtime. The majority of that overtime was in corrections. And so we believe in maintaining the staff. We won't have the turnover that's creating the overtime. So we will save in overtime. Let's say we saved $500,000 in overtime incurred to turnover, and we put that back into their salaries to increase their pay. We're going, probably 2015, our average experience level for corrections officers in the jail was about 15 years, the average. Today, 59 of the 87 corrections officers have 2 years or less experience. What does that mean? It's knowledge about how to do the job, to handle inmates, to say, we've been here before and our experience has shown this. When they don't have that experience to relate to and other officers on shift, it creates liability situations for the county, for us as a sheriff's office, and I think that's a major problem in terms of jail operations. We need to get back to maintaining people staying there for longer periods of times and making that a career. What other facilities know is we do very excellent training and bring in very good corrections officers, and our experience has shown that. In terms of litigation over the years, attorneys just can't believe not only the few lawsuits that are filed, and corrections is a very litigious environment, but that we don't lose those either. Because in other facilities, they see that that's not the case. They're losing lawsuits because of that inexperience. So I really believe it's important to have the best staff possible to do that. And so we need to increase corrections pay. And right now, we are in bargaining. So we have 8 bargaining units at the Lake County Sheriff's Office. In 2020 was probably a lot better environment to be bargaining, because we weren't sure with COVID, we weren't sure with budgets, we weren't sure of a lot of the finances. Today, in 2023, we're seeing really substantial pay raises being given in the field of corrections and in terms of policing, because of the need that there's not enough people coming into the field and the need to be able to maintain staffs to adequately do the jobs of corrections and law enforcement. Yes.
Just to give a quick example, before coming over here today, I got an email on job postings for lateral transfers for a neighboring community just in the Cuyahoga County, and they are advertising $91,000 a year for a lateral transfer for a police officer. So that's the type of environment that we're operating in. And quite frankly, we have some very talented young people that are working on patrol and our whole operation, really, and the whole organization. But for a $20,000 a year raise, I don't know why anybody wouldn't jump at that when that's being openly advertised by these agencies, and that's entry level as a lateral transfer. So that's just kind of an example of what we're up against at this point.
If I could just add to that, so would it be fair to say that is the market value for the staff, your deputies, your corrections officers, your dispatchers? You're seeing what the market value is for the staff? Is that fair to look at it that way?
Yeah, I mean, we get examples of it every day. That's, it's the same as buying cars or buying food. The market value has gone up. I'll bring up cars. That's another instance of another obvious need that we have no way of getting around, is buying our vehicles. And over the last decade, the price for what it costs to purchase and upfit a police car, I mean, it's probably up between $20,000 and $30,000 per vehicle. We're well over $60,000 per vehicle now for whether we buy a Tahoe or they stop making the Durangos, the Explorers, but with the upfitting needs for them, that's up at least $20,000, I would say, across the board.
Provided you can get them.
Provided you can get them, and that's another issue. And Mr. Matus has been great with working with us on that. But we'll get word that, hey, there's 6 Tahoes available at this one dealership, and you've got about 2 days to make a decision whether or not you want to get them or not. And generally speaking, over the last few years, since 2020, guys have been great in helping us to do that. But it's just, the price of poker has gone up across the board, really.
As we go into these negotiations, we work towards a settlement. If a settlement can't be reached, it moves to a fact finding, then to arbitration. And under state Ohio, arbitrators then make a decision as to what you're going to be paying. And so we're seeing more significant awards by arbitrators in terms of pay for corrections and for deputy sheriffs and police officers across the state of Ohio, given the current market conditions. Our deputy sheriffs right now are being paid $15,000 to $22,000 less a year than police officers on the west end and east end of Cuyahoga County, in Geauga County. And that's who we're really competing against in terms of the talent pool. We went to a recent thing on staffing, and somebody put it this way, not us, it was this, from the state. They said, right now we're in the free market stage, and everybody's trading officers. The problem is, they said there's no draft behind them. And so what does that mean? We think we've hired some really good talent, and it's important to maintain those for the safety and security, not only of the people that we deal with, but Lake County as a whole. As you're aware, we just did a major drug arrests that were done, but our SWAT team participated in securing the house here in Painesville. So the DEA was involved, FBI, the whole HIDTA task force, which brought in about 20 federal, state, and local law enforcement into that scene. What was relayed to us, they said, is the Lake County SWAT team that secured that home, how they maneuvered, how they communicated, how they dealt with people inside. They said probably the most professional SWAT team in Northeast Ohio to work with. It's a great thing for us to say, because our training's doing the right thing. And it's great for Lake County because this is a unit that responds to volatile situations here in the county, certainly on the east end. And we work very closely with the Mentor SWAT team and the West End SWAT team too, in terms of those communications. We would hate to see us losing that type of talent to other places, and they're coming and they are actively pursuing to try to get those deputy sheriffs to leave and go to other departments, whether that's on the West End or in Cuyahoga County. And one of the reasons they're not leaving at the present time is because I think we've developed a great culture at the Lake County Sheriff's Office. And people stay for pay and for culture, the culture of the organization. And we have expressed that, listen, we're going to go meet with the commissioners and express the need to increase the pay for these individuals. And so hang in there with us, don't leave, because we're going to work with them to try to make that better. So that's, go ahead.
Another thing to touch on that, another reason why they stay is because they like working, specifically our patrol division, they like working in the townships that we patrol. I would argue that the townships in Lake County are some of the best places to live, and they've been pretty supportive of us going out. They want us there. They know that we do a good job. We pride ourselves in doing that, and we really take pride in keeping those townships to be the best place to live that we can. They're expanding. Concord Township, Painesville Township continue to expand. Our patrol division right now basically provides police protection for about 50,000 plus residents. And I don't want to say that we're understaffed. The FBI says you should have 2 officers for every 1,000 residents. We're nowhere near that, obviously. I don't think we're ever going to get to that point. But it's important to us to have the resources to be able to keep those places the great places to live that they are. And to prove that, many of our new patrol deputies that we bring on, I would say about 70% of them live in the townships. Most of them didn't live in the townships before they worked for us. So we take pride in keeping those places, the quality locations that they are. So.
And just to touch real quickly, I've expressed this before, but Lake County is very supportive of law enforcement and really for our whole criminal justice system. And I won't belabor the point, but I've talked extensively about the importance of maintaining good law enforcement relationships, and then a good prosecutor's office and the ability to handle the cases from those arrests and those cases that come in, and then a good court system to support that, to give people fair trials, and then be willing to maintain or give just sanctions for the crimes that we're confronted with. We are looking at more serious crime in Lake County. We're looking at more serious crimes and more gun violence, more drugs, and the violence that comes with that. We were just in Washington, D.C., and working with the national sheriffs. We went to the Border Patrol Committee meetings, which was sheriffs from the southern border, sheriffs from across the United States, and what they're saying is the cartels are moving extensively into the United States, and they are already securing safe houses. They're securing places where they're moving the products that they're moving in. In the house that our SWAT team hit, there was, we believe, and the FBI believes, the Sinaloa cartel is what was at that house. They vacated the second floor because we think there was information from one of their carriers that this was going on. So they left their food and everything on the second floor, but at every window was high-powered rifles. They were ready to take on anybody that would challenge them. And that's moving into our neighborhoods. Downstairs was a lot of products, a lot of packaging. Really 88 pounds of fentanyl was taken, enough to kill 20 million people. And that's moving through Lake County. We need good, qualified law enforcement officers who can handle this, who know what to look for, who have the experience, because unfortunately, everything we're hearing is this is just growing. And it's what's coming to our prosecutor's office.
You know, to kind of round it out is to show how it impacts every aspect of what we do. And the sheriff touched on what our medical expenses are, you know, in the jail, and they're on the rise. And we're just dealing with a less healthy inmate population due to the drugs that are running through this country. 500 plus transports that we're sending out of the jail, 1.8 a day, many of them with overnight stays in the hospital. We're running so close to the margins because that requires at least one, possibly two deputies to go with every inmate that leaves the jail. Our court service division is, I mean, right there on the margin of what we of what we can afford to have as far as securing the courthouse, as far as taking care of all the civil work we have. And again, every day 2 inmates are leaving the jail facility to go to the hospital or to an appointment. On the weekends when that happens, we don't always have a court service deputy on. So what has to happen is somebody has to come off the road, come get the inmate, go to the hospital until we can arrange for a court service deputy to come in on overtime, or for somebody to come on overtime to sit with that inmate at the hospital. And we're just seeing more and more of this, and it really involves the entire operation of what we do, and it's all interconnected with the court system, with the prosecutor's office. It's something we've never seen before in this country, and it's not getting any better. And it is the one thing they kept saying at this conference we were at last week is every state is a border state. We have to look at it that way, that every state is a border state, because we are all fighting the same fight that the border states are fighting, and we're very clearly seeing it here.
So the first area is salaries, and we're not making up the figures that we're looking at. The county engaged, I think it was maybe Downs and Hurst or Clemens Nelson to do a wage study, and they looked at in terms of sheriff's operations and similar operations, and so those are the numbers based on the studies that have been done. The second topic is jail operations, and what we're asking for as a sheriff's office is what direction are we going as a county in terms of jail operations? And why I ask that question is, as a sheriff's office, we need to either continue what we're planning for in terms of a new jail facility with our policies and procedures, with our training, or is the new jail no longer online to be constructed? And we're looking at a jail renovation, which will change dramatically our policies and procedures in terms of our training, and then preparing how to handle the current county population as it continues to grow out of COVID. The new jail estimates, we had 3 studies done of the jail facility, and all 3 studies since 2014 have said jail needs to be replaced. So the county did contract with HOK, who between March of 2022 in the fall, did an evaluation of the needs of Lake County and our jail, and said their best estimates is $170 million to replace the jail. Some of the concerns that they expressed is there used to be 4 major contractors in the United States building jails. One of those contractors decided they don't believe in jails, and so they're not going to build them anymore. So that leaves 3 major contractors left. Currently, Cuyahoga County was in the process of building a jail, or planning a new jail. They stopped that planning. Now they just open it up. What is that concern in terms of Lake County? Is, from what the engineers have told us, we are now in a competition for laborers. And whoever gets out there first, it's going to affect in terms of one of those 3 major contractors being able to construct the jail and do that immediately, and securing laborers to be able to do that. The estimates by HOK every month that a new jail is not moved forward adds $1 million onto the cost of construction, onto that $170 million. Every month of delay is $1 million. So either we're moving forward on that and we start to continue planning accordingly, which is very staff intensive to do that, or we have to look at a jail remodel. And some people look at the jail remodel, well, that's not as costly. The estimates that we're hearing from engineers, from our own people, is upwards to $80 to $90 million to renovate the current jail. $4 to $5 million to replace the roofing system at current pricing. If you look at the exterior of our building, all the windows are beginning to shatter. You will see the back of the jail is all roped up so no one goes near it because it's covered in glass from the windows shattering. All the bricks, the county did major repair on the exterior of the jail because of the bricks coming off the building, and they're continuing to do that. So in terms of what has been evaluated is all the bricks have to come off, the windows need replaced, and 3 years ago the estimate was $25 million. 3 years ago, we know that cost certainly at least $30 to $35 million to do that. The interior of the jail, the estimate was $25 million to fix the interior of the jail. I would estimate that that's just as much, 30 to 35 million. We have 4 elevators in the jail. One of those elevators is currently down. It's been down for 2 months in terms of moving inmates and meals for the 5 floors. There's really only 2 inside the jail to do that, so we're down to 1, and sometimes the backup is 8 moves deep to be able to move anything throughout the jail. Each of those elevators is no longer being made. Not only that, the parts are no longer made for those elevators. So when an elevator goes down, they have to send the motor out and get it retooled with the hope that it can be retooled and fixed enough to operate. The last one we were able to retool cost $70,000. There's no guarantee on any extent. There's no like, okay, here's $70,000, it's good for 5 years. Here's $70,000 and it may break tomorrow. So the one that we have out, it's been out for 2 months. We're not sure it can be repaired. If it has to be replaced, every elevator will cost $350,000 to replace each elevator. And that needs, originally we were looking at jail repairs and saying, well, let's just do 3 years repair. Let's just get something in that's good for 3 years, because you can go 3 years or 10 years. Going 10 years is obviously a lot more expensive. We need, our buildings and grounds and our telecommunications need to know we have to replace the intercom system. Do we not do that and wait for the new jail, or do we expend, I think the last estimate was about $400,000 to replace that system. Do we do that now? Replacing the jail has been talked about for 15 years. The studies have been done. The HOK has come down and did their study. So we know what the condition of the jail is, and that needs to be replaced. Obviously, we know before the commissioners is how do you do that? How do you pay for it? How do you do a bond? Whatever that has to be, or if we decide to hold off on building a jail and update the current one, as a sheriff's office, we disagree. And we disagree not because we just want a new place. We believe we're going to spend $90 million to update a facility that isn't going to last 30 years because of the bones and structure of that facility. Not only that, it will be underbedded for the next 30 years. We believe the jail, and talking to the state, talking to other sheriff's offices, and talking to national sheriffs, they believe what the drop in jail population during COVID is starting to rise again. And you talk to probation said we have people who are violating their probation 4th and 5th time. It leaves no other place than to put these individuals in jail and to provide some type of treatment to try to handle that. So I guess today we're asking for direction from the Lake County Commissioners is where do we go from here in terms of preparing and moving on our jail future.
I have to say no decisions will be made until all budget meetings are completed. We've heard you loud and clear. This is one of the key elements to where we are financially. You're making a strong case, and I believe, personally speaking, we need to get updated numbers on what that would look like. And I think it's fair to say that if we're talking a renovation, it's a little bit like a marriage. Once you're in, you're in. But we're going to actually, I think the public needs to know we're going to actually lose beds. We have no future. And what I mean by that is we're backed into a corner. All of the efficiencies that we would be gaining, we would no longer have access to. Intake, reentry, all of those treatment programs that are best practices, we can't do, at least effectively and efficiently. So hear you loud and clear, sir. But I just have to say these are discussions that are going to be more than we can do in this hour block. You're welcome to come back and have a greater conversation, and I would like to talk to our Buildings and Grounds and Telecommunications Department and get a better feel for where their numbers are at as well. I think it's time that we hear from our in-house experts, if you're okay with that, sir.
We're ready to come to any meeting. We've attended those, and we're ready to come at any time. We have the figures. It's not something we have to research. We've been told by the state of Ohio that we keep the best statistics so we know where we came from and where we're going. And so that's important, and it's a credit to the staff at the Lake County Sheriff's Office in terms of operations, and they're keeping track of all those figures.
If I may put a little finer point on this, you make an excellent observation there. I think it's worth repeating. We've had this come up at numerous meetings previous. No one should confuse the quality of the staff and their performance and meeting state standards with the quality of the facility that they're working in. It is a testament to the people working in that facility that we're meeting state requirements It's not that the facility is carrying the people are carrying the facility. Could you maybe put a little finer point on that, please? Or did I just do
Well,
good?
if I can quote somebody who may have heard this before, the only thing in that building worth saving is the people. And I firmly believe that. And but, give us the direction and we'll make do with what you decide. But, from our point of view, we need some direction here, sooner than later, because we have to start planning for the future. And you never know, it's warm today, but it's going to get cooler on Friday. And I'm telling you right now, don't walk too close to the building. Some windows may pop out while you're walking next to it, because that's generally when it happens.
In answer to what I think you're referring to, the state does annual inspections, and what the annual inspections look is our policies and procedures. Are they in compliance with the minimum jail standards? They look at the quality of food service and the quality of medical, and the training of officers and staff, whether that training is good training and whether that meets state standards. State evaluations do not evaluate the physical structure of the jail unless there are major studies done that show the jail should be demolished. And I'm not saying that a study has shown that, but then they would say you can't operate in this facility because it has no lighting, it has no, the windows are all busted out and the air is moving through and it's not healthy. Then that would be a different finding by the state, but they do not come in and do physical structure, and that's not part of the evaluation done by the state.
Excellent. Yes, sir. That's what I wanted to have entered into this budget discussion. Thank you. Well, I'm going to, if I may, I'm just going to be blunt. You talked a great deal of having a quality staff. We just talked about that a moment ago. Quality performance that comes with training and experience. I think you've made a strong case that we are indeed in danger here in Lake County of our justice system being put in danger of losing those quality people with the training, with the experience. And as we have talked about at other meetings, and now we'll enter into this budget discussion, this will impact our public defender, our prosecutor, all of our courts, our adult probation, our coroner, those types of departments, those types of offices, all impacted by this. The bill is coming due. We have many hard-working people who are here because of the culture, because we have relatively good working conditions, but the bill is coming due. I talked earlier about market value. There's just some discussions about, well, maybe should it be a market adjustment followed by contracts with appropriate percentages just for year to year. But we talked about bargaining and our unions, discovery in the form of fact-finding, arbitration. Those are very real things. We can't just make the numbers up. If we are not fair with our people, there are mechanisms by which that fairness will be imposed. I would say if we go over our estimates leading up to this, we're looking at about, I'm going to look to our budget finance director if I say this wrong, about 1.5 million, and this will compound annually. That is a reality. Am I correct? Thank you, sir. I have heard through all these discussions, I'm very happy though that you talked about training, but it comes down to everything from simple additional costs associated with ammunition, but staffing, all of those things, you need experience, you need actual hands-on. You can't simulate some of these things. You can get as close to a reality situation, but you actually have to do the hands-on. So when we talk about the training center, that's a $1.2 million investment. Public has no idea that's going on. Apparently we're not really good at tooting our own horn when it comes to all the things that are going on, but that has to do with the experience level. Experience equals safety. I think we heard you loud and clear. People can, everything from getting hurt on a workers' comp injury to not being able to come home at night. And in my universe, that's not acceptable. Everybody goes home. I've heard several people say the sheriff doesn't have countywide presence. I think you've made a strong case that yes, the sheriff's department does have a countywide presence. And I think a couple of, if I could just give three, you mentioned SWAT here today. And just two of the task forces, our drug task force and our human trafficking task force. Those are very real and relevant throughout the county. And something else, I know people are saying we're fear-mongering, I say we're informing. We literally have drug cartels operating in Lake County. They're utilizing Interstate 90, Interstate 271, and there are physical bases of operation in the county. You made an excellent point there. When that drug house was engaged, the fact that they had cleared out, I would really, how can I say this politely? It would have been quite the blank show had they been there armed and engaged. I believe we have the capability of containing and dealing effectively. But those people are right now among us. The public has a right to know this. The public has a need to know this. And denial is unacceptable. This is not theater. This is reality. We have people putting their lives on the line, and we're asking them to do it and be underpaid and overworked. I have a serious problem with that. And I say again, every one of these people has a right to go home. Their families have an expectation they're going to come home. It's more than just being properly paid. It does come down to training and experience. And I say again, the bill is coming due. Sheriff, I don't know if you want to add any more, or my colleagues, if you want to chime in. Those are the points.
I guess I just have one question, not to belabor this point, but when could we expect some type of direction in terms of the jail facility, in terms of either moving toward a renovation or moving to a new jail facility? I don't think we have a lot of time to make some of those decisions and then move in terms of planning.
It's a legitimate question. I'm going to look at our budget finance director, but unless somebody can show me the money, I have no idea how we're going to be able to proceed with that. And I have to look at terms as far as sustainability and protecting and maintaining our staff. And I realize that facility is a key element, but given the budget demands that we're facing, I have no idea how we can proceed with replacing that facility. I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to credible, legitimate, sustainable solutions. Somebody has to show me the money. I don't know how else to say it. So I don't know, gentlemen, if you want to chime in, but that's me speaking.
Mr. President,
Sir.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. We need to find the most fiscally responsible solutions for our residents and taxpayers. We've compared the cost of renovating the jail facility to building a new one, and while numbers do need to be updated, when you compare apples to apples from the 2017 numbers, you saw that there wasn't a huge difference in the cost of a renovation plus an addition to building a new jail. And I expect that that number holds true. The numbers are obviously higher in both cases, but they're roughly equivalent. And given that a renovation gives you somewhere along the lines of a 10 to 15 year period versus a new jail, which if built properly, emphasis on the word properly, should give a 50 to 60 year useful life, the cost per year is less than a third if we're building a new jail versus a renovation. Given that renting space in another jail is even more expensive than either alternative, there really isn't any choice other than building a new jail. And that may mean uncomfortable decisions in other areas of the county budget, but we don't have a choice on whether or not we provide a jail. It's one thing to say, I don't know how, or show me the money. And I certainly understand this is going to be a heavy lift, and we all need to collectively, in every department, understand it's a heavy lift, and that sacrifices may need to be made in order to make that lift. But we have a statutory duty to provide a facility, rented, bought, or built, to incarcerate the people that our justice system incarcerates. We can't simply say, well, it's too expensive, we're not going to do it. That's not an option. we've had some pretty fiery debates here, and we've had a lot of very important and very apropos questions from residents about the issue. But if you want to debate whether or not a jail is necessary, or how we're incarcerating people, or what the law of incarceration or criminal law is in Ohio, you got to go down to Columbus for that debate. We don't have the luxury of deciding jail or not. We're only making the humble decision, still important, of what is the most fiscally responsible way to provide it. And I've yet to see anyone who's shown me a cheaper, a more affordable solution than building a new jail when we're looking at the cost per year, which is what our residents care about. So I think we need to proceed with the new jail facility. For my part, I would want to sit down in the very near future with HOK, which has our most recent numbers and studies, as well as our lobbyist in Columbus, who is continuing to look at whether any state funding may be available. And there's increased optimism about that, given the governor's prioritization of jail projects. That's obviously not going to pay for a majority or even a large portion of the jail, but to the extent that there is some aid available, we should certainly take full advantage of it and make sure that we're proceeding in a way that we can take advantage of it. The last thing we want to do is make ourselves ineligible for whatever funding we may be able to get working through our state reps and senators. So I would think that in the very near future, weeks, not months, we need to have a sit down with our lobbyists to know what's available from the state, along with HOK to know what are the next steps to proceed, and we need to pull the trigger sooner rather than later. We've heard $1 million a month as an estimate of how much the cost of the jail facility is going up. I think every person here wishes that past boards of commissioners had pulled the trigger years ago, because it would have been a $60 or $70 million project for the same facility that we're now looking at, from the very biggest range of possibilities, including all contingencies, $140 to $170 million project. So we have doubled or more than doubled the cost just by waiting from 2019, 2020 to today. And I don't think we want it to double again, because we don't have a choice. We're going to have to provide a facility, and it doesn't strike me that there is any more fiscally responsible way to proceed than building a new jail. And I'm open to someone showing me, here's option D. There's some other way to provide for incarceration that would be safe, that would be effective, and would be more affordable. If someone has another proposal, I'm here to listen. But I've been looking at this problem for a couple of years now, and in talking with the sheriff's office, buildings and grounds, telecommunications, and every other party, I have not seen a lower cost per year than building a new facility.
Sheriff, what do you pay on maintenance currently or in the past few years?
Currently, the last figures I was given is about $500,000 is pumped into the jail. Is that correct, Mr. Matus?
And then we also have telecommunications that are fully staffed there. It's probably about $1 million a year.
And that's assuming just status quo, not
Just
the new-
status quo,
just
yes.
to be clear.
Yep.
No renovation, just
Right,
status
that's just what
quo.
we pay now to maintain what we
Yes.
have and not make any improvements.
Yes.
So everything I've seen, there's no one that's gone through that facility and said, boy, we should keep that. How do we pay for it? We've seen the ask on salaries today at millions and millions of dollars. So we have to get through this process to find out where do we stand, where's it going to be, where does that lie? Like my colleagues, I'm open to any interpretation. I know the state of Ohio has $50 million available for jails. 52 counties have applied for it. Doesn't cut the mustard. Now they've talked about changing that, but until they do, we have nothing solid in front of us until the governor or somebody passes a budget that has significant funding for jails. CCAO is looking into that. They're lobbying for that. But as we know how government works, that's not a quick thing. It's not going to be overnight. We need, as my colleague says, we need an answer in weeks, not months, not years.
And just to be clear that
The last 50 million, this is the second $50 million go-around. The first 50 million, which we did apply, went to 5 counties. 5 of the 88 counties got money, and 82 did not, or 86 did not. This is the second go.
And just to be clear, that $50 million, based on their standards, Lake County was not eligible to receive any of those dollars. There was a heavy slanting towards communities that have chosen to neglect their facilities and are basically liabilities in action. I think that tear them down question or comment you made earlier fits some of those facilities. But that's $50 million that is not within our reach, unfortunately.
I think this is, you know, what we've been saying since I've been up here, so.
Okay, again, just to restate, no decisions will be made until all budget meetings are completed. If there's nothing further, Mr. Matus, anything else here?
No, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.